Good day everyone. In today's lecture, we'll be discussing about the measurement of high resistance. For the measurement of high resistance, many different methods are available like using a Megger, using direct deflection method, using the mega ohm bridge method and using the loss of charge method. But in today's lecture, we'll only be discussing about the loss of charge method and Megger, how this can be used for measuring the insulation resistance. The circuit diagram shown here is for a loss of charge method. Now in the loss of charge method, this is used for measuring the insulation resistance. Now let us take the insulation resistance to be measured to be R. The insulation resistance, it is connected in parallel to a capacitor C and to a voltmeter V. Now all these these three elements, it is connected across a battery V using a switch S arrangement. Now when I am connecting the switch, what is happening is, when the switch is connected, current will flow across this path and current will flow across the three branches, and because of this the capacitor will get charged. That is, till whatever is the limit, the capacitor will get charged. For example, let us consider the capacitor will get charged to voltage V, and then what we will do is we'll open the switch. Now when we are opening the switch, what will happen, this capacitor, it will try to discharge to the resistor R. Now what I have to do is, now when the capacitor is discharging, this voltmeter will keep on monitoring, and when the voltage across the voltmeter is becoming 0, it means that the capacitor has completely discharged. Now the discharge rate of the capacitor, it will depend on what is the value of the resistance. That is, if I am plotting the charging of a capacitor, the capacitor can be charged to voltage V for a time t, it will discharge. The discharge will be exponential in nature. That is, I can clearly see the discharge of the capacitor will depend on what is the value of R and will depend on how much the capacitor has charged. Now exponential rate, as I have said, exponential rate. So we can clearly see here that from this expression I can clearly make out V. That is, if at any instant of time, if I want to find out what is the voltage across the capacitor, using the graph, the exponential graph, I can clearly make out what is the value of capacitor for any given time using the equation capital V is equal to small v exponential to the power minus t by RC. Now what I can do is, by doing V by V, I can find out what is the value of e to the power minus t by RC, and finally solving for R, I can make out R is equal to T C log E V by V. Now what I am doing is, I am trying to change the base, that is log E, I am trying to change it to log 10. That is using the formula of logarithm, that is log AX, change of base formula. Using the change of base formula, I can clearly make out the value of R is equal to, the value of R, it is equal to 0.4343 T in divided by C log, that is log to the base 10 V by V. Now using this formula, I can clearly make out what is the value of my resistance. That is, if I know what is the time t taken, and if I know the voltage at any voltage at any instant, I can calculate it using the voltmeter, and V, that is to what limit my voltmeter can be charged, and I know what is the value of C, that is what is the value of capacitor that I have used. Depending on all these values, I can clearly make out the value of the unknown resistance. But this has a small problem. What is the small problem that we are having? That is, for example, if I'm having a capacitor and I'm charging this capacitor and I'm not connecting it to any resistor, that is, capacitor is not connected to any resistor, even then we can clearly make out that the capacitor is getting discharged. Now why the charge across the capacitor, it will become equal to 0. Now why this discharge is happening? This discharge is happening because when in actual practice, the voltmeter is also having a small amount of resistance, and the capacitor also has a small amount of leakage resistance across the capacitor, and because of this internal resistances, we can see this value, that R value that I have calculated, it is not only the value of the resistance, unknown resistance, but it is also the value of the R that I am getting, it is not only the value of R, it is also the value of the internal resistance of the capacitor, the leakage resistance of the capacitor, as well as the internal resistance of the voltmeter. Right now, for this, what I will do is, in the previous, I'll just have to modify the circuit. So in the previous circuit, we have seen that the connection made was R, C and V in parallel with a switch. Now this connection is modified. What modification is done is, what we are seeing, this R1 is not connected in this circuit. This R1, it simply means the leakage resistance of the capacitor and the internal resistance of the voltmeter. This R1 component is not present. For the purpose of understanding, I am showing this R1, it is connected in parallel, I am showing it. Now what I will do is, to the R a switch is connected. Now this experiment, this method that I have done, this experiment will be done 2 times. First, when let me take it to be S1 and let me take it to be S2 and this to be S1. Now this is connected 2 times. The first time what I will do is, I'll connect S2 and I'll perform the experiment with S1 open. That is, S1 is not connected. I'll see for what time my capacitor is discharging. The second time what I will do is, I will connect S2 and I will connect S1. Now both are connected, both the switches are turned on, and then again I will calculate what is the value of T or what is the value of R that I am getting. Now based on this, I can clearly make out R dash is nothing but it is the effective resistance, that value that I am getting. Now conducting the experiment 2 times, I get 2 values. That is, first I get R1 value, then I get what is the value of R. That is, when switch S1 was open, I got what is the value of R1. When switch S1 is closed, I also get what is the value of R dash. I am getting the value of R dash. That is, I know what is the value of R dash, I know what is the value of R1. Now based on this, what I can do is, I can clearly make out what is the value of R. Now this experiment, it will give me the exact value of the unknown resistance that is connected. Now a small modification is done for the loss of charge method. Now from this, the value of R1 from second test, it will clearly give me what is the value of R. Now moving further, we will move on to the next method that is most widely used. This is called as a Megger. Now Megger is used for measuring resistances in the range of mega ohms, that is in the range of mega ohms, that is insulation resistances or very high resistance values can be measured using Megger. Megger is an instrument. This instrument, what we will do is, we will connect the unknown resistance, and using and the instrument will determine on a scale, a scale is given. On this scale, it will determine what is the value of the resistance that we have connected. Now here in Megger, we can see here that we have permanent magnets. Two permanent magnets, two places we are having permanent magnets we are having. Now this magnet system is similar, that is to the in the Megger, the magnet system that we are using, the permanent magnet system, it is similar for the pointer movement as well as for the hand driven generator. Now let us look into the construction of a Megger. Now when we are discussing about a Megger, we can see here that there are 2 voltage coils. I'll take it to be V1 and V2. 2 voltage coils are there and a single current coil is there. Now let me take this to be voltage coil, that is 2 voltage coils. This is the first coil, this is the second coil. Let me consider 2 voltage coils are there. Now these 2 voltage coils, they are kept as a threads over annular magnetic core. That is, on magnetic cores, these 2 coils are wound. It is wound in such a manner that it is forming a T or a plus arrangement it is forming. Now we can see here that, as I have said, there are 2 voltage coils V1 and V2. We can clearly make out that, let me zoom into the picture. This is V1. Let us consider this to be V1 and the longer one to be V2. Now we can clearly make out that V1 is kept in a weak magnetic field when the pointer is at infinity position. That is, if the pointer, if it is coming at infinity position, we can clearly make out this will be the shape of the voltage coil. that is V1 and V2. So we can clearly make out when the pointer is moving to infinity, V1 is moving to a position where it is in a weak magnetic field. Why weak magnetic field? Because the magnetic field is in this direction and my voltage coil, it is placed in the direction, that is it is kept in a very minimum reluctance position, it is kept, so it is having a weak magnetic field. Now clearly we can clearly make out that is when the pointer is moving towards 0, what will happen? My coil's position will become in this manner. Now when it is in this manner, maximum flux interactions are there. So because of that, when the voltage coil V1 is at 0 position, it is at a position of stronger magnetic field. Now here we can see when it is at infinity, very little torque is exerted on V1. At infinity position, very little torque is felt by the voltage coil V1. Now the torque exerted by the voltage coil increases as it is moving to a stronger field. When it will move to a stronger field, it will move to a stronger field when the pointer is moving to 0. When the pointer is moving to 0, V1 will move to a stronger field, and because of this the torque is maximum when it is directly under the pole phase, and under this condition we can clearly see the pointer will move to 0 end of the resistance scale. Now considering the second coil, we can see that the second coil, it is exactly opposite. That is when V1 is at its weakest position, we can see V2 is at its strongest position. So here we can clearly make out when the pointer is at infinity, V1 is having the weakest field while V2 is having the strongest field. When the pointer is at 0, V1 is having the strongest field but V2 is having the weakest field. That is from the previous diagrams we can clearly make out, that is when the pointer is at 0, this will be the position. Now because of this position we can clearly make out V2 coil, it is out of the pole phase, and because of this it is at a weakest position. Now we can clearly see to modify the torque in the voltage circuit, voltage coil V1 and V2 both are used in conjunction. Right now here we can see the combined action of V1 and V2 acts as if the coil is like a spring, that is it is stiff near the 0 end of the scale. It acts like a spring which is stiff near the 0 end of the scale, and it is it is stiff at the 0 end of the scale where the current in the current coil is very large, and it is weak near the infinity end of the scale where the current in the current coil is very small. Now this was about the voltage coil. Now talking about the current coil, this C-shaped ring that is kept below the voltage coil, it is my current coil. Now the values in the current coil we can clearly make out, that is voltage coil V1. This is the first voltage coil V1. It is a voltage connection, it is done in parallel. The second voltage coil, it is connected. The second coil, it is connected in parallel. Then we can clearly make out this is the current coil. Current coil is connected in series. The current coil is connected in series. This can be we can clearly make out the current coil connection is given in series, and because of this we can clearly make out, that is from the discussions that we have made, current coil is not moving, only voltage coil is moving. So based on this, based on the above discussions, we can clearly make out that is the 0 end of the scale, near the 0 end of the scale we can merely make out this magnetic effect is strong while near infinity it is weak. So it clearly means that pointer can easily move towards the infinity end, that is it cannot easily move towards the 0 end. Now connection is made in such a manner, or the construction is made in such a manner, that is the combination of the effect of the current coil and the effect of the voltage coil. When both these effects are combined, it gives up, it is in such a manner that the resistance value, if the resistance value is higher, the pointer is easy to move towards the higher end, but it has a compressed action towards the lower resistance portion. Right, so that is the scale opens up in the high resistance portion while it has a compressive action in the low resistance portion of the scale. Now we can clearly see that is the voltage range. The voltage range can be controlled using voltage selector switch. That is, this can be varied by varying what is the value of R connected. Depending on the value of R connected in series with the current coil, are connected in series with the current coil, what we can clearly see, that the voltage range can be controlled. Now the voltage range, what is the voltage range? The voltage that is generated by the hand driven generator. The hand driven generator arrangement is used. A crank is there, a handle is there. Now what we can do is we can keep on rotating the handle. When the handle is being rotated, as the handle is rotated, what will happen? It is like giving mechanical energy to the generator. Now when mechanical energy is given to the generator, what will happen? The generator will convert mechanical energy to electrical energy, as we all clearly know. But one more thing has to be kept in mind, that is the generator will generate a required adequate voltage only if some RPM level is matched. Now when we are using hand driven generator, so it is a point that sometimes the speed can be low or sometimes the speed can be high. That is, for example, if I want 500 volt to be generated, for example 500 rpm speed has to be maintained. Now how to achieve this? If different persons are using a same megger, not the difference in different speeds, they will be rotating the hand driven generator. Now to balance that, the hand driven generator has a clutch arrangement. Now what will happen is, if the rpm value is going, for example if it is going greater than 500 rpm, then what will happen? This clutch driven the clutch arrangement, that is a centrifugal clutch that is incorporated in the generator, it will slip off at a predetermined speed, so that only constant voltages is applied to the insulation under test. Now this is where the voltage is generated. Now this voltage is connected using the resistance R. Now varying the value of the resistance R, what I can do is I can change, that is by increasing or decreasing the value of resistance R, what I can do is I can vary the voltage level. That is the voltage level. This voltage level will be dependent on what unknown resistance value I have to measure. Now depending on the unknown resistance value, the voltage level can be varied, and I can easily make measurements I can make. Now we can see, that is, I was talking about the magnet system. Here we can see for the voltage coils and the current coils. The current coil and the voltage coil are kept under a magnet system. The hand driven generator is also requires a permanent magnet system is required. The same magnet system supplies magnetic fields for both the instrument and the generator. As the current and voltage coil, they are moving in the same magnetic field, the instrument indications are independent of the strength of the magnet. Now here permanent magnets that is placed here, they do not play any role in the pointer deflection. Why? Because the current coil and voltage coil both are kept under the same permanent magnet. So as both are kept under the same permanent magnet, they are kept under the same system, therefore the permanent magnet system will have no effect over the pointer. So this is basically the megger. Megger is widely used for measuring resistances in the order of mega ohms. That is why it is also called as megger.